is Firefighter Tiger, co-host of the Public Safety Future Responders podcast with my co-host, Medic Dog. For this episode, again, you will be having just me listening to for this episode of our season 3 podcast. I'm amazed we're on our 3rd season already. Can't believe it. So we're going to keep on going with this 3rd episode. And because it is a cold, wet weather day on Tuesday, March 5th, 2024, where I'm recording this podcast episode and it's raining, we're going to talk about one of springtime's most favorite weather and how it relates to public transportation, since this season is all about public safety on public transportation. So kicking things off, we head on over to the rail lines and we highlight some good old safety tips of the passenger trains, especially the subways. So according to the Metro North, or the MTA services out of New York City, New York, here are some very safety tips for subway users who use the subways. And according to MTA, the MTA crews on a typical day pump 14 million gallons of water from the subway system. And unfortunately, because of the extreme flooding weather conditions and the occasional raining season that spring comes with along, they could overwhelm pumping infrastructures and impact the ride with them. To be prepared for safety, prepare to travel during heavy rain or flooded events. Please, these are the following tips that the MTA recommends, and they're probably useful along any subway journeys you have, especially if you're not in the New York City area, but you take the subways wherever you are. Do not run, especially on wet surfaces. Clear, simple. Do not enter flooded stations. If it's closed, do not enter it for your safety and for the safety of the staff. Please use handrails in stations on the trains and also on buses for the subway systems that do provide bus transportation. Be careful boarding and exiting trains. Do not move between train cars. Always follow instructions from the employees of that subway system, such as the MTA employees for those of you who are on the Metro North subway system. Listen for station announcements and always check the digital signs in stations for updates, whether the subways are canceled, on delay schedules, or wherever you are. Check the weather and transit service status before you travel. If the weather is severe enough, it might be safer not to travel if you can avoid it. Folks, basically putting it to you in that perspective of basically if it's too dangerous to travel and you don't need it, be safe, think smart. Don't go out if you don't need to. Also, too, feel free to also, if your subway systems providers for public subway trains, such as the MTA, have apps like, for example, My Meta or the Train Times app. Go download those apps so you are aware of any updates, because usually a lot of public transportation services will put out advanced notices on their social media platforms as well. And you can also follow them, like I said, follow them on the social media platforms, on Twitter, Facebook, wherever the public transportations are as well, to see real-time service status. And speaking of that, let's get into a little bit of types of flooding, so people understand what kind of flooding they're dealing with. So, starting off, we have flash flooding. Flash flooding happens when heavy rains fall at a rate that overwhelms drains in a particular area. In a city, drainage is dependent on the city's sewers. If water cannot properly drain, it will flood the streets and eventually the subway system, because subways are usually lower than the actual street level. So you have your street level, and then you have the subway systems that run underneath. Flash flooding typically occurs during fast-moving rainstorms, which are harder to predict in terms of timing and location of impact. The unpredictable nature of flash flooding makes it also more difficult to prepare and mobilize. Protective measures needed to be designed to function while we're still running service. While fresh water is generally not as harmful to our infrastructure as salt water, it could still create unsafe conditions for our customers and employees and cause damage to certain types of equipment. Hence why when there is severe weather conditions, you will immediately see the fact of warning signs going out, warning notifications going out, being sent out, advising the conditions of the systems and if they are providing transportation or not. Storm surge. Coastal flooding is caused by storm surge. when strong winds force large volumes of water over land, typically during major coastal storms. Like in this case for the United States, we had Hurricane Sandy back in 2012, as I could possibly recall. As the name suggests, Pacific coastal locations are susceptible to coastal flooding from storm surge. This kind of flooding can be particularly devastating because of the massive volume of salt water, which can cause severe corrosions of our infrastructure and equipment. So, unfortunately, salt water sadly does do a lot of damage because salt is mostly an element that will corrode metal and kind of rust it out a little bit. Um, because of flooding, according to the MTA, it's typically caused by it's typically slow-moving storms, but we generally have several days to prepare. We may take proactive actions to suspend service and deploy targeted protections that seal vulnerable parts of the transportation system to protect it against salt water. Hence why, if you do see folks, if the trains are canceled, please do not be mad or discouraged. It is because they're looking out for your safety as well as their safety and the protection of the equipment. It is too dangerous for them to run the equipment, so they want to be safe than sorry. For the MTA, they prepare for heavy rain and other events by deploying crews to flood-prone locations to monitor the situation and respond to any flooding that occurs. Crews will inspect track drains and check and stage track pumps and storm boxes. We also mobilize crews to assist in cleaning debris from tracks and stage emergency response equipment. For the buses, crews monitor flood-prone routes and have detours prepared. Extra personnel may be put on standby in the event of service disruptions or subway shutdowns. Hence why a lot of times, if trains are canceled, most train systems will connect with bus services to provide bus services and as an alternative transportation because they want to still keep moving passengers around. But it may be too dangerous for the trains. But they are trying to seek alternative situations for you all. So please be on the lookout for that. Such as over in London and the United Kingdom, you have the Royal London Bus Transportation Services who will assist when needed for the network rail that goes along over there. When it comes to the Long Island Railroad and Metro North, we monitor weather conditions and may deploy maintenance personnel to troubleshoot any issues with signals, tracks, or sources of power. These crews may have chainsaws for clearing down trees or pumps available for flooded areas. Electronic weather sensors are in place on bridges so that we can monitor weather and roadway conditions. Crew monitor areas that have historically been prone to flooding and prepare to clear conditions if necessary. So pretty much, folks, like it is during prior to the storms, you'll see them getting prepared, but then during the storm, they may suspend or shut down services. That is for the protection of their equipment and for the safety of you. And then afterwards, please be patient with them after storms because they do work diligently as they can to clear up the mess, as we have seen. Hence why, basically, for potential service changes, extreme weather can disrupt services on the Metro North subways, buses, and commuter railroads. If this happens, they will communicate changes through announcements at stations and bus screens on their website and apps and Twitter. So, folks, it is very helpful that if you're planning on taking trains, make sure you download the apps. Like for the United States, if you plan on taking trains like you plan on taking Amtrak trains, download the Amtrak app. And then, of course, your local commuter rails may also have possible apps as well as listening to them on their social media platforms such as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever where they have their socials. So keep an eye on them, follow them as well. So in case of storm changes, storms will come up unexpected, and we'll see you. And they will make sure that safety is a priority because on public transportation, safety is number one. Hence why for subways, if you're in the New York area, subways may run at slower speeds because if there are hazardous conditions such as flooding or downed trees, some stations may be skipped. So please pay attention to the announcements while at the subway stations. Services may be suspended or rerouted if tracks are unsafe for service. They are looking out for the safety of their equipment and for the passengers on board because you are their priority while in operation. Over on the commuter rails, same as subways, but trains also may run at slower speeds. Services along a branch or a line may be suspended if water, down trees, or other debris interfere with tracks. And then, of course, like it is after storms, trains may experience delays as crews work to clear tracks. So, folks, after storms, please, please, please be patient with them. Some services may be suspended even long after storms, but that's because they want to make sure that it is safe to operate as well. In terms of buses, unlike subways and trains, buses have roads, and like it is, we all have lots of roads. So bus operators may need to make detours if flooding impacts a bus route. Services on some bus routes may be suspended if flooding in an area makes travel unsafe. So if traveling is unsafe for any reasons, they will make detours or will suspend services. That is for the safety of everybody involved. In terms of bridges and tunnels, since we are on the roadways, we go looking up on the bridges and that. So temporary bans on tandem trailers and empty tractor trailers on bridges. That is because for empty trailers, the wind will blow hard and could cause the trailers to move around unexpectedly as well. Closing pedestrian pathways on bridges because certain bridges have pedestrian pathways that are above the roadways, so they want to protect pedestrians as well. And also may as well possibly ask motorists to refrain from traveling for the duration of a storm or flooding event. That is because they want to make sure you are safe and not get stuck for any reasons, because they do not want. They're trying to make sure you are safe. Make sure they get to you as soon as they can if you're in trouble, and that as well. So, folks, again, for the rails, check the media, check the social media platforms, check the websites for your local public transportation. In terms of on the road, since we talked enough about rails and a little bit on the roads, we're going to continue on about the roads by basically saying, folks, flooding situation. Yes, we have all probably experienced it one way or another. We have all seen rain. No big shock there. But in terms of flooding while on the roads, if a road is closed, please, 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 please follow the detours that are set up. Please do not drive in flooded road conditions. It is unsafe. You don't know what could be in the water. You could run into a major issue. If you do get stuck in the flooded condition, please, please, please immediately alert 911 or the emergency services if you're stuck, so we could get to you. Some jurisdictions will try to assist you by employing little boats to assist you. But folks, if you do get stuck in flooded conditions, you will be rescued. But your car or vehicle that you are operating may not be rescued. A lot of tow truck companies, for the safety of themselves and their equipment, will not be rescuing your vehicle in a flooded area. It is for the safety of them and their car. So unfortunately, folks, please do not be mad if your car does not get towed out of the flooded water, because it's just too dangerous for tow truck drivers, and they want to make sure they are safe. Okay. Also too. So pretty much in like low areas, you'll see flooding. Usually in your flooded-prone areas on roads, like if roads run along rivers and streams, roads may be ending up being closed for safety reasons due to flooding, and that. Yeah, basically, number one thing is if it's flooded, don't get stuck. Don't get stuck. Don't go in it. It is for the safety of yourselves, because as emergency personnel, we are worried about your safety, and public transportation are also worrying about your safety. So if railroads are closed, they will they will try to provide alternative services for you, or possibly cause refunds as well. So, folks, I will say it to the fact of if the roads are unsafe, don't go. Basically, look at it this way, folks. Think of it this way: do you need that item? If you don't, and it's rain and it's severe weather conditions out there, don't travel. Be smart. You don't want to get yourself stuck, and we don't want to see you stuck as emergency personnel, because then that means we have to come rescue. Not saying to the fact that we are rescue. We don't want to rescue you. We just want to make sure you are safe, and we don't want to try. We're trying our best to make sure you don't get stuck as well by alerting you on our social media platforms, on our websites, and also having road signs in place for detours and road closure signs because we want to make sure you're all safe as well. Um, so, folks, that will do it for for our third episode of our season 3 podcast. Um, we will have something special for you all next week. Before our fourth episode, which we will pick up after next week. So, folks, on behalf of my co-host Magic Dog and myself, we want you all to think smart, think safe, be safe, and we will see you all on another video. Folks, feel free to like, comment, and we will see you all on another safety video. Take care, folks, and be safe.